If you missed class, I did want to go over the factoring when we have a number in front of x squared. And if you were in class and you just want to rewatch to help you remember, here are the steps that we did. So in class, we went through problems, there were 2 review problems, and then we did the first 4. So if you have the packet, it is a little bit different. We're not going to go through 5 and 6. So I'm going to zoom in. Okay, so just as a review, when we go to factor, first step we want to look for is, does the quadratic, which is, that's what anything raised to the second power, that's what that's called, a quadratic. Is there a GCF? In this case, no, there's no GCF. Okay, so I can't group yet, so I'm going to take that imaginary 1, multiply it to the 3, and I get 3. So then I'm going to list the numbers that multiply to 3. Well, it's really just 1 times 3, or negative 1 and negative 3. That gives me multiplication of positive 3. So from my red list, positive 1 plus 3 gives me positive 4. So when I go to rewrite this, I have x squared, then plus 1x plus 3x plus 3. So I'm substituting back in the middle. Cut it in half. GCF of the first side is x. So GCFs go in front of parentheses. And then I'm left over with x plus 1. GCF of the second side is 3. 3 goes in front of parentheses. And I'm left with x plus 1. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So my x plus 1's inside the parentheses match. So there's one of my answers. And then we're going to take the outsides, the GCFs. So x plus 3 is my second answer. Okay, so now let's do the second one. Again, this is a review. So I'm going to check no GCF, can't group, so we're going to multiply, and I get negative 6. So everything that multiplies to negative 6, I can do 1 and negative 6, negative 1 and positive 6, negative 2, positive 3, negative 3, positive 2. Adding up to a negative 5 would be 1 plus negative 6. So when I rewrite this, I've got x squared plus 1x minus 6x minus 6. All right, so now I have my 4 terms. I can split it in half. GCF of the first 2 is x, right? Because they both share an x. That goes to the outside, and we're left with x plus 1. GCF of the second 2, now because it's a negative, we have to take a GCF of negative, and it's negative 6. So negative 6 goes in front. I'm left with x, and then again plus 1, because 2 negatives make a positive. So again, my parentheses match. That creates one of my answers, x plus 1, and then x minus 6. Okay, so that's a review of when we didn't have a number in front of x squared. Now I'm going to go back, and we're going to start going over what happens when we do have a number. Well, the first thing I'm always going to look for is, can I take a GCF with that number? So no, not in this case. I can't divide everybody by 2. Okay, well I can't group, so we're back to what I call playing the game. So I'm going to take that number in the front, multiply it to the number at the end. So this gives me negative 6. Now I just made that list in the last problem, which was 1 and -6, -1, +6, 2 and -3, -2 and +3. Now, out of my blue numbers, which ones add to a +1? And it would be these, -2 plus 3. So when I go to substitute it back in, I've got 2x squared, right? Then minus 2x plus 3x minus 3. So if I split it in half now that I have my 4 terms, looking at the first two, I can take a GCF of 2, because I can divide them both by 2, and they both have an x. So 2x goes in front of the parentheses, 2x squared divided by 2x, so it leaves me with just that x, and then minus 1. 2 divided by 2 is 1, the x is to the outside. GCF of the second half, I can divide them both by 3. So 3 goes in front of the parentheses, and then that leaves me with x minus 1. I know I'm right because my parentheses match, so I've got x minus 1, and then I just take my outsides. 2x plus 3. And that's it. Okay, we're going to do 3 more examples. So now we're looking at this one. So again, I first want to check, is there a GCF? So can I divide everybody by that front number? In this case, no, I can't. So I go back to 3 times 8, and that gives me positive 24. So I'm going to list out 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 6 times 4. Now sometimes, well usually, I will list all the negative possibilities too, but I notice both of my signs are positive. So I'm just going to stay with the positive numbers. All right, adding to 10 would be 6 and 4. So now when I rewrite this, 3x squared, then I'm going to substitute the middle, so plus 6x plus 4x, and then plus 8. I have my 4 terms split in half. So now GCF on the first side, I can divide them both by 3 and take an x. So 3x goes in front, and I'm left with x plus 6 divided by 3, 2. Remember, we took that x to the outside. GCF of the second side, now the biggest number I can divide them by is 4. So 4 goes in the front, I'm left with x plus 2. My parentheses match. So x plus 2 is one of my answers. 3x plus 4 is my second answer. So it's the same process that we've been doing when the number is not in front of x squared. We just now have to really be careful with our GCFs. Whoops. All right. Number 3. So first check, no GCF, okay, can't group. So we do 2 times 5, 10. All right, so I can do 1 and 10, 2 and 5. Now I notice I do have a negative, so I'm going to list my negative options, -1 and -10, -2 and -5. Adding to a -7 will give me -2 and -5. So 2x squared, then minus 2x minus 5x plus 5. Split it in half. GCF of the first side, I can divide them both by 2, and I can take an x away. So 2x goes in the front, and then I'm left with x minus 1. GCF of the second side, because the first term is negative, my GCF has to be negative, and it's negative 5. So negative 5 goes in the front, and I'm left with x, positive 5 divided by negative 5 is negative 1. My parentheses match, x minus 1. Then I'm going to take my outsides, 2x minus 5. Okay, now I'm going to go through one more example, but what I want you guys to do is pause the video and try this one on your own. Okay, now that you've tried this one on your own, I'm going to quickly go through it and see if we got the same answer. So I'm going to do 9 times 1 because there was no GCF. And after you list all of your numbers out, you would have found negative 3 times negative 3. Adding them together gives me negative 6. Multiplying them together gives me positive 9. So I have 9x squared minus 3x minus 3x plus 1. Splitting it in half. Now, the number I can divide both of these by is 3, and I can take an x, so 3x goes in the front, 9 divided by 3 is 3, and then we still have an x, minus 3 divided by 3 is 1. GCF of the second side, since it's a negative, we have to divide both sides by a negative. But in this case, the biggest number we can divide both of them by is 1. So negative 1. So negative 1 goes in the front. That leaves me with positive 3x minus 1. Again, my parentheses match. So that's good. We've got 3x minus 1. And then I'm going to take my outsides, 3x minus 1. This answer is perfectly correct, 100%. But one way you might see this written is 3x minus 1 squared. Because they're the exact same thing, we can write it one time with a squared. If you still have questions, remember to come see me during office hours.